Cecilia Zhang is a beautiful girl who is known to be smart and kind who lives in Canada. One day her parents found their only child mysteriously disappeared from her bedroom. Because the child was not found, Cecilia's parents reported the strange incident to the authorities. No less than 50 detectives were sent to investigate the disappearance of Cecilia Zhang. It took 5 months for the police to uncover this shocking mystery. Then where is Cecilia Zhang? What happened to her? And who was involved in this case? See the full story. This is a true story that began in 2003. Enjoy watching. This beautiful girl is named Cecilia Zhang, or more familiarly called Cecilia. She was born on March 30, 1994, in Jiangsu Province, China. Cecilia was born to Raymond Zhang and Sherry Su, in 1998. Cecilia and her parents moved to the Toronto area, Canada. In 2003 she was only 9 years old. She is in 4th grade of elementary school. It is known that this beautiful girl has been registered at Seneca Hill Public School and is part of a program for gifted children. Both of Cecilia's parents are known to be very protective of her. She is not allowed to play alone without supervision from both of her parents, even though it is only in the front yard of their own house. Cecilia is a daughter they love very much. They do not want anything bad to happen to their child. On October 19, 2003, as usual, Cecilia and her parents had dinner together. After enjoying her dinner, Cecilia then played the piano. After the child was satisfied playing the piano, the mother then put Cecilia to bed as usual. The next morning, exactly at 8:30 local time, the mother, who intended to wake up her daughter to go to school that day, was very surprised to see that Cecilia was not in her bed. Cecilia's parents continued to look for their daughter around the house, but did not find her whereabouts. Cecilia's parents even found that one of the windows in their house seemed to have been damaged by someone. The family then decided to call the local police. Shortly after, Toronto police officers arrived at the Zhang family's residence to help search for their daughter. The police estimated that the intruder had gained access from the back window of Cecilia's house. This was seen from the window, which had been forcibly damaged. After being investigated, it turned out that the window left fingerprints. In addition, a knife was also found in Cecilia's backyard. There were also fingerprints that were the same as those on the damaged window. The police received information from Cecilia's mother that on the morning when Cecilia was known to have disappeared, her mother's cell phone rang twice, but when the phone was answered by Cecilia's mother, no sound was heard. The mysterious call was then traced on the telephone connection. It turned out that the 2 phone calls came from 2 different payphones, namely in the Brumpton area and in the Mississauga area. The police then tracked the 2 payphones to get more information. At 1 p.m., precisely on October 20, 2003, precisely on the first day Cecilia was known to be missing, the police then announced to the public through the media that Cecilia, the 9-year-old girl, had been kidnapped. Then at 5 p.m. the police began a search at a location close to Cecilia's house, but did not find the little girl at all. Because they were confused about finding a suspect in this kidnapping case. A detective in the case named Steve Ryan, who is also a former homicide investigator at the Toronto Police Service, said that the Toronto police should also suspect Mrs. Cecilia as a suspect in this case. This is not without reason. Steve said this investigation was still too early, and according to him, kidnapping in the middle of the night when the child was in the house with both parents also in the house, and claimed not to hear anything that night, was very impossible to believe. According to Steve, child kidnapping is very rare in Toronto. And in this case there were no clues, other than the rear window that had been cut and a knife found behind Cecilia's house. Steve said that it was his job to bring Cecilia's parents in for questioning. Finally the police brought Cecilia's parents to the police headquarters in downtown Toronto. In the interrogation session, Cecilia's mother initially looked silent, then the situation changed when the detective began to accuse Cherry of being involved in the kidnapping. At that time, Cherry was said to be speaking in a very high tone while jumping towards the detective, and she said and confirmed that she was not involved at all in the kidnapping of her child. Detective Steve was very surprised by Mrs. Zhang's actions. Until finally both of Cecilia's parents were released as suspects. But until here, investigators have no other significant clues. Before Cecilia's parents were released, it turned out that during their interview process at the police headquarters, the detective wanted to know what was happening in their house. So they planned to install a wiretapping device in Cecilia's family home, in the hope of getting a clue. From this, the police then obtained a warrant from the court to be able to break into Cecilia's house, and immediately install the wiretapping devices in the house. The police had to act quickly at that time. Before Cecilia's father and mother arrived at her house, the wiretapping device was installed, on the telephone, lights, and in all parts of the house. Unexpectedly, Cecilia's parents arrived when the officers had just finished installing the wiretapping devices. Thankfully, Cecilia's parents did not suspect the officers' actions. If only at that time the officers were a little late in installing the devices, they would have been caught and could have failed to get information from inside the house. Then the police began to monitor and supervise Cecilia's parents who were in their house. The police hoped to get important information in this case. But in fact the police did not find any significant clues. There were no signs that Cecilia's parents were the perpetrators. On October 21, 2003, the police began searching for Cecilia in other corners of the city. But still no trace of Cecilia was found. On October 22, 2003, hundreds of police officers were deployed to help with the search process more deeply. Not only that, there were 50 detectives deployed to investigate this case. In addition, the police also announced a cash reward of $1,000 for anyone who could provide information or clues regarding Cecilia's whereabouts. In addition, Cecilia's school was also guarded by the police. On the same day, a friend of Cecilia's family began to announce her telephone number, and she told Cecilia's kidnappers to call her immediately. Who knows, Cecilia is in the hands of the kidnappers to ask for ransom. But in this case, in fact an investigator, is not sure that Cecilia had been attacked randomly by a predator. At that time the police made a strong statement and emphasized that they were very sure that Cecilia was still alive. This is not without reason. The police saw that so far there have been very few criminal acts, especially against children in the Toronto area, Canada. 4 days after Cecilia disappeared, precisely on October 24, 2003, Cecilia's parents began to appear in public. They attended a press conference for the first time. At that time they made a request for their daughter to return safely, and asked whoever kidnapped Cecilia, not to hurt their child, and begged to release Cecilia. Raymond, Cecilia's father said, "Look at her eyes, she is an innocent and sweet child, please don't hurt her, and let her go," said Cecilia's father. The search for Cecilia was closed when the police announced that they had 700 clues to be examined related to Cecilia's disappearance. On October 25, 2003, exactly 5 days after Cecilia disappeared, Cecilia's neighbors prepared a special fund that was intended as a reward, for anyone who could provide assistance, or clues regarding the whereabouts of the little girl, so that she could return safely. The next day, October 26, 2003, Cecilia's family officially launched their own website to help find Cecilia. They hope that many people will inform Cecilia's whereabouts through the site. At that time, the financial assistance for Cecilia had reached $15,000 very quickly. 7 days after Cecilia disappeared, precisely on October 27, 2003, the family again announced that they would give $50,000 as a reward, for anyone who managed to provide clues about Cecilia's whereabouts. Meanwhile, posters related to Cecilia's disappearance have also been printed, both in English, Cantonese, and Mandarin. Not only that, the Toronto police have also announced a reward of $50,000 for Cecilia's safe return. In addition, Cecilia's neighbors also helped raise money, and the money that was collected at that time was worth $15,000. The next day, namely on October 28, 2003, a reporter from a fairly well-known TV station in America came to the Zhang family home to publicize the case of Cecilia's disappearance, in order to gain international attention. The next day, October 29, 2003, Toronto Police Chief, Julian Fantino urged the kidnappers to meet him in person. But still to no avail. The police have not found the whereabouts and perpetrators of the kidnapping of the poor girl. This certainly makes the police have to work even harder to be able to solve this case, and save Cecilia's life, which is now unknown whether she is still alive or not. On November 12, 2003, the police again distributed new photos of Cecilia, in the hope that the public would not forget about this case, and continue to try to help the police find the girl. On November 26, 2003, the reward for anyone who managed to get clues about Cecilia's whereabouts, increased to $140,000. Without realizing it, it was already December. The family hoped that their daughter would return home during the Santa Claus parade, but that hope did not come true. Cecilia had not returned either. In addition, the Chinese police also joined the global search for Cecilia. On December 23, 2003, the police came down to urge Cecilia's kidnappers to submit a ransom request. On January 21, 2004, Raymond Zhang, Cecilia's father, offered $200,000 for the safe return of the princess. He said that he would mortgage his house to pay the reward money. In February 2004, there were about 4,000 photos of Cecilia that had been pasted on taxis in the country. After 5 months of wondering what really happened to their missing daughter, Raymond Zhang and Cherry Sue got the worst answer, when a passerby found the remains, which after being identified from her dental records, were Cecilia Zhang. The remains of Cecilia's body were found in a river near the Mississauga ravine in the Ontario area, which is also known to be close to Toronto. The body was found on Saturday, March 27, 2004, which was 3 days before Cecilia's 10th birthday. Knowing this news the next day, March 28, 2004, Cecilia's neighbors began to decorate the funeral home with flowers and candles as an outpouring of grief and support for the bereaved family. After Cecilia's remains were found, the second phase of the investigation began, as we have discussed at the beginning, when the police obtained the suspect's fingerprints from the window and on the knife found behind Cecilia's house, precisely on the first day when the girl was found missing. At that time the police did not get any other clues that were helpful enough. But 4 months later, after Cecilia's body was found, the police began contacting the female student who had previously rented a room in Cecilia's house. It was known that the woman had moved for 6 months from the house. The police then contacted the woman for questioning, including taking her fingerprints. In addition, the woman was also known to have a male friend who had also visited her rented room located in Cecilia's house. The man was known as Min Chen. He was also on the list of people to be investigated by the police. Because in this case the police will continue to examine people who have just met Cecilia, as well as those who have known the girl for a long time, all the police contacted. After that the police then managed to meet Min Chen and check the DNA fingerprints and see if he had a previous criminal record. After the police investigated Min Chen and hundreds of other people, it was found that the young man with an innocent face was the main suspect. Yes, Min Chen's fingerprints matched what was left on the window and the knife found in Cecilia's backyard. But previously the man had no criminal record. Police in the Brampton, Ontario area then announced that they had arrested the 21-year-old Min Chen. He is a student from Shanghai, China. He is now named the #1 suspect in the kidnapping and murder of Cecilia. When Cecilia's mother received information that the suspect in her child's murder was Min Chen, she was very shocked because she knew the man, even though they had only met a few times. Min Chen was born on January 30, 1983. He is a native of Shanghai, China who has lived in Canada on a student visa since 2001. According to the police, Min Chen knew a woman who rented a room in Cecilia's house between September 2002 and March 2003. And Min Chen had visited Cecilia's house at least 4 times. So Min Chen and Cecilia already knew each other. At that time even the police said Cecilia felt quite comfortable being around Min Chen and like in normal social circumstances in general. At the time Min Chen kidnapped Cecilia, the man had stopped his English studies at Seneca College campus located near Cecilia's house in the North York area, Ontario. In addition, Min Chen also did not complete his grade 12 course at a local private academy. It is known that Min Chen's father was an airline executive, and his mother was a Shanghai, China police officer. Min Chen routinely received money from his parents in China. According to an agreed statement of facts read at the Brampton, Ontario courthouse, Min Chen had failed his college studies and was very afraid of being deported back to his home country. He was said to be in a very difficult economy at the time. Min Chen was said to be in dire need of $25,000 to get married in the country. He also needed money to take care of everything for the cost of obtaining permanent residency in Canada. It was said that Min Chen had been in Canada on a student visa since 2001, and his visa was due to expire in August 2004. At his trial, Min Chen was represented by a well-known criminal lawyer named John Rosen, who is also known to have defended serial killer Paul Bernardo. Then what is the chronology of Cecilia's kidnapping? According to Min Chen's confession, the plain-faced man said, in the early hours of October 20, 2003, around 3 to 4 in the morning, Min Chen tried to pry open the locked door of the Zhang family's house using a knife, and threw it into the backyard when he failed to open the door. After that, Min Chen tried to open the kitchen window and get Cecilia out of his house through the side door. Without realizing it, Min Chen had left his fingerprints on the knife and on the Zhang family's window. In court, it was revealed that when Min Chen tried to kidnap Cecilia, the girl tried to scream, but Min Chen tried to cover her face with a towel, and covered Cecilia's mouth with his hand, so that the child's voice would not wake up the other residents of the house. When Min Chen put Cecilia in the trunk of his car, the girl had stopped struggling. When Minyan tried to check Cecilia, he was very shocked to find that Cecilia was no longer breathing. In panic, Min Chen then took Cecilia's body, and then put the girl's body where she was finally found by the police. After the police officer told Min Chen that he was the main suspect, the police then visited 14 different car maintenance locations, which of course Min Chen had visited before, to replace the liner in the trunk of his car, which was known to be where Min Chen kept Cecilia's body. Min Chen told the authorities that he never intended to kill Cecilia, and did not think her parents would involve the police in this case. He only intended to get the ransom. After that, Min Chen planned to release Cecilia that day. Min Chen told the authorities that he never intended to kill Cecilia and did not think his parents would involve the police in this case. He only intended to get the ransom. After that, Min Chen planned to release Cecilia again that day. Of course, after he received the ransom. But fate said otherwise. Cecilia died due to Min Chen's actions, so that all his plans failed to materialize. Min Chen finally pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. On May 9, 2006, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Human rights lawyers have noted that under Chinese law, when Min Chen completes his sentence and is deported back to China, he will likely face a second trial and sentencing in his home country. Outside the courthouse, Peel County Police Sergeant Todd Moore read a statement on behalf of Cecilia's parents, who were not present at the hearing. "We have suffered a loss beyond words. Every day has been very difficult for us. 2.5 years have passed and every day has been very difficult for us. The fact that there is now a guilty plea by the accused in this case brings us some relief, but it will not bring back our beloved Cecilia. That is the true story that can be seen presented for this edition. Hopefully we can take wisdom and lessons from what is happening around us, including this incident. See you in the next video.